The proposed megadevelopment One Central would create residential, retail, parkland, and a transit hub on top of the Metra tracks just west of Soldier Field. The splashy $20 billion plan has gotten lots of attention, including for its reliance on $6.5 billion in state financing. Some lawmakers say the language that made the financing possible was snuck into last year's state budget, and one of them wants to put a stop to that portion of the plan. Joining us now are State Representative Cam Buckner, a Democrat from Chicago, who just introduced a bill to block state financing for One Central, and Jack Lavin, President and CEO of the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, and a supporter of the One Central development. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Representative Buckner, let's start with you, please. Why do you want to block state funding for this particular project?
Yeah, thank you, Brandis. Most simply put, my issue is not with the proposal. It is with the process and the priorities. The bill that I filed to amend the State Finance Act and repeal the provisions that created the Civic and Transit Infrastructure Fund that will be used by this One Central proposal. It's really about making sure that we are having intentional conversations about what this means from a financial standpoint. This was a $6.5 billion golden ticket that was thrown over the transom in the 2019 budget implementation bill without any real background, really any real conversations being had with those of us who represent the area. And so as we look at the precariousness of this new state budget, the things that have happened since COVID became an issue, we have to figure out if this is something that the state can afford and if it's something that's a priority for all of us.
And Jack Lavin, what is your reaction to that bill?
Well, Brandis, thank you for having me. I was a little surprised. I understand what Representative Buckner is saying. I think this project is a tremendous opportunity for Chicago. It can generate over the next 40 years $150 billion of revenue and 70,000 jobs. Right now, that land produces $23,000 of property taxes. So it's a tremendous opportunity. There's a process that's going on right now. It won't be built for a few years. But what I liked about the legislation is it was a public-private partnership for the state of Illinois. The state has not done too many of these. The private money is up front and not a dime comes out from the state till the project is completed. So there's a process to go. It's still happening, but I think this is a great opportunity. It's a unique public-private partnership that the state of Illinois is doing for an opportunity to build a gateway to the South Side and create jobs and connect South Side neighborhoods to the Central Business District.
And Representative Buckner, have you gotten reaction to your legislation, to your bill from Governor Pritzker, your colleagues in Springfield?
So I've spoken to a number of my colleagues who are excited about the fact that this was on the table. I've not spoken to the governor personally about this, but the governor has come out publicly as he's talked about the ensuing budget that we will pass in the next couple of weeks here in Springfield. And he has really indicated that this is not a priority of his. I've gotten widespread support from colleagues across the aisle, across the state about this, because what also is important to know about this from a financial standpoint, this isn't a typical TIF type of deal where there's a value capture based on a geographic area. This would be sales tax coming to this project from every region of the state. All right. And so when we look at, once again, where we are as a state, the things that we need to focus on to make sure that we are moving forward in a hopefully post-pandemic world, we've got to have these conversations.
Jack Lavin, what would this state financing go toward?
The state financing would go towards a transit hub, a civic build that brings National Rail, Amtrak, Metra, CTA together in one place. It builds that civic build, a transit hub. Transportation studies, transit studies, market studies have been done to show that this will work. It connects the South Side neighborhoods to the Central Business District. There's a rail yard there. It's a barrier to opportunity. It's a barrier to the South Side connecting with the Central Business District and creating jobs, lowering commute times. That's what creates jobs and helps people get to jobs. And I think in response to Representative Buckner, one of the things about this public-private partnership, it is not TIF dollars. The money that the state puts in, they get back, I think it's in 20 years, so they own the asset at the end. TIF dollars, typically, that does not happen. They own the asset, and they can use it for their unfunded pension liability. They could transfer the assets into there. That is, I think, when the legislation passed, that was one of the benefits of it that I think when the General Assembly and the governor passed it and the governor signed the bill, that was one of the unique parts of this public-private partnership.
And Jack, how much does the developer need this money? Can a mega project like this get off the ground without state funding to back it up?
I think these large projects, especially this one, when we built Millennium Park, we built a tabletop over that rail yard to build Millennium Park. Look at the return on investment at Millennium Park and what tourism brings to the city of Chicago and state of Illinois. It's the same issue here. You have a rail yard, you need to build infrastructure over it. All these big projects require some infrastructure. Others have gotten TIF dollars. This had a unique public-private partnership with the state where the state takes ownership of the asset at the end of the 20 years. And that's unique in that they're getting their money back. They're getting a return on investment. They're getting an asset they can put into their unfunded pension liability.
Representative Buckner, you've also said that there needs to be more analysis, or that you'd like to see more analysis of how necessary this is. Would you consider backing state financing for this project if there were changes to it, or if there were more analysis of the transportation impact?
That's one of the biggest things that I've talked about, is making sure that we have more thorough, intentional, independent analysis of what this means, both from this is about transportation, about equity, about air pollution, about traffic, about all those things that would be important for this. I think we have to have those conversations. And as we talk about transit, there's nobody who wants the South Side to be connected to the Central Business District more than I. I live on the South Side. I'm from the South Side. I represent much of the South Side and downtown as well. We should be concentrating energy, though, on sustaining, improving, and coordinating our existing transit system. So what I'm looking for is more clarity on why this is needed and what it looks like. Brandis, I'll tell you, growing up as a kid, I had a math teacher who was infamous for putting "show your work" on top of a math assignment. If you had the right answer, but the process didn't make sense, he was more concerned with the process than the answer, because that was important. All we're asking is to show your work.
Are you concerned at all?
Brandis,
go ahead, Jack.
And Brandis, they are in a process with the city of Chicago before they can go back to the state and negotiate the final public-private partnership agreement. They've got to go through the plan development process at the city. They've submitted the transportation study, the transit study, the market study, all the things that Representative Buckner is mentioning. And I don't know if those are public or will become public soon. The plan development process is beginning. When that happens, I'm sure all this information will be public. I know there's been a number of community meetings, and I have great respect for Representative Buckner. This is a process, and we got to have that information.
Before I let you both go, Representative Buckner, I just want to ask, is there any concern that by blocking the state financing, that could nix the entire project? In 25 seconds.
No, I hope that this can move us to a spot where we can have, once again, these more intentional conversations. $6.5 billion is real money, Brandis. I think we all know that. We have passed a number of bills in the last few years that make neighborhoods stronger and safer and put dollars in education. And the question we always get is, where will the money come from? However, that didn't seem to be a question for the mega project. So we need to see where our priorities are and figure out what's important to us.
Okay, more to come on this, I'm sure. My thanks to Representative Cam Buckner and Jack Lavin for joining us.
Great. Thank you, Brandis.
Thank you.